In Tamale, it's on W93.5 FM. In Wa, around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. You can also watch us live on Facebook, 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, opposition NDC petitions Inspector General of Police over what they describe as treasonable comments made by a Greek minister, Brian Champon, last week.
The Legal Affairs Directorate would deliver a petition to the CID as well as the Inspector General of Police to call for the arrest and prosecution of Brian Champon.
In the last few days, various analysts have taken on the Peace Council and the Christian Council for the allowed silence over the war of words between leaders of the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress.
National security, rise up to your responsibilities. The Peace Council of Ghana, Christian Council of Ghana, there is a voice to speak truth to power. Find your voices.
The NDC 2024 flag bearer hopeful John Mahama has been speaking to this on his tour of the Eastern region. We'll hear from him. Also this afternoon, Western Regional Police Command meets family of 25-year-old man who died under what the family describes as mysterious circumstances in police custody. And also this afternoon, the UK government has put Ghana on red list of countries not to be actively targeted for recruitment of health workers. We'll be speaking to players in the health sector shortly. And also in politics, 2024 NDC flag bearer hopeful John Mahama in a battleground Eastern region as he seeks the endorsement of party faithful to lead the party into election 2024. He has also been announcing an award scheme for constituencies that rake in the most votes during the polls. We'll also be touching base with the campaign team of Dr. Kwabena Dufo, another flag bearer hopeful of the party. He's also been touching base in the northern region. You want to stay with us. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. This afternoon, the opposition NDC is petitioning the Inspector General of Police over comments made by a Greek minister, Brian Champon. The party has joined many individuals and various analysts to condemn the utterances made on a political campaign platform at Kwewum Price in the Eastern region, indicating the NPP would never hand over power to the NDC. In the last few hours, the NPP has been justifying the comments, while the NDC has called for prosecution of the Greek minister, who is also a former Minister of State in charge of national security and sitting MP for Abetifi.
It all started when the Greek minister and the Abetifi member of parliament, Brian Champon, made these comments before a charged MPP crowd. His comments, which were described by the opposition National Democratic Congress as reckless and treasonable, attracted the wrath of many of its members. The statement signed by NDC General Secretary Fifia Vikwete noted that such comments truly demonstrate a patterned, well-rehearsed strategy of the New Patriotic Party going into the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. It further called on the Ghana Police Service to act swiftly in arresting Brian Champon for his comments. But the New Patriotic Party, NPP, in a rebuttal noted that the NDC reaction is not only ill-founded, hypocritical, illogical and baseless, but also one that lacks contextual substance for the consumption of the discerning Ghanaians. They further stated that Brian Champon's comments were only in response to many other comments made by some NDC officials. Brian has not been silent. He cited in a post condemning the NDC for majoring in the minors instead of coming up with strategies to help the party win the upcoming elections.
Judith Architanda with that news desk report. Well, the women's wing of the NDC has described the comments as an attack on democracy. Women's organizer Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisu has been addressing a press conference in Kumasi.
Brian Champon should descend from the tranquility of Kwewum Mountains into the battlegrounds and face a determined mass of well-prepared defendants of democracy. December 2020 election massacre will not happen again. Ayawasu West Wagon will not happen again. In the breakout of war, women and children suffer the most. It's been days these words of war were declared by the NPP. IGP Dampare and the Ghana police Did you suddenly lose the swiftness and proactiveness to arrest like you did at Swami in the case of our constituency youth organizer? National security, rise up to your responsibilities. The Peace Council of Ghana, Christian Council of Ghana, where is the voice to speak truth to power? Find your voices.
You heard the National Women's Organizer of the NDC, Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisu. Even as pressure continues to pile on the Peace Council, the Christian Council, and other faith-based organizations to intervene and calm tensions, the NDC has taken steps to petition the Inspector General of Police. Director of Legal Affairs of the party, Abraham Amaliba, says they expect the police to take decisive action.
The Legal Affairs Directorate would deliver a petition to the CID boss as well as the Inspector General of Police. This petition is to call for the arrest and prosecution of Brian Achampong for his unsavory comments, which was made during the Easter break. We of the Legal Affairs Directorate of the NDC are of the view that his comments have the potential of subverting the will of the people during the 2024 election. At around about 2 p.m., we would present a formal petition for the arrest and prosecution of Brian Achampong.
Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC, Abraham Amaliba there. And as you may be aware, in the last few days, this has been a subject of great concern to many individuals, civil society groups, and other watchers. NDC 2024 flag bearer hopeful John Mahama has also been wading into the controversies. He, during a campaign tour of the Eastern region, specifically Ekropon, has been taking a subtle jibe at Brian Achampong.
Nyame ne sihene na sem nyame ya ne hihia nipa bia ntimi sesa no ensema ebin mo kane de mamu fa mo adwen to so ebise nyame hihie me kwa sorry na me ogidi me so me boko to dwe na me bompa ya nyame kasa kire me kakra na nyame se NDC yemre aso na tumi no de ahye yensa nyame ya ne hihia tobe bia ntimi sesa no enti yen de engusu bompa yen jiga na fodi se nyame ahye no ebebam.
NDC 2024 flag bearer hopeful John Mahama speaking to party delegates at Ekropon in the Eastern region. He is in the region for 3 days. He will be visiting 31 constituencies to interact with the party faithful there. Among other things, he has also been speaking about helping the party to garner many of the votes they lost in the last election. He's also been promising an award scheme for the executives in the constituency who are raking a lot more votes.
It's not about experiment. Maybe I'm gonna say dream. It's not about experiment. It's about experience. And by God's grace, we have the experience. We didn't buy it in a store. We didn't learn it in school. It is God who gave us the opportunity to gather that experience. Na baby amekobia ahimfo ka kire me emabunu ka kire me obia baby obekọ Ghana fa na ha nyina yesi kanea yesi o NDC mo abreso nyenya kanea yesi nsua yesi NDC mo abreso nyenya nsuo ayarsabia NDC mo abreso enyenya ayarsabia school yesi mo abreso nyenya school. So say ye kwanya yese mo abreso ena mbe yi kwan mai emre bia NDC ena che mpuntuo na yeso yi mu yanka say constituency anto aman enti enye hwe wo ho ye bani.
You had the NDC 2024 flag bearer hopeful John Mahama there. We are crossing over from the camp of one flag bearer hopeful to another, this time to the camp of Dr. Kwabena Dufo, who has been in the northern region, and he's been speaking to delegates, trying to convince them to give him the nod. Here is a report.
As part of his 2-day tour of the northern region, the 2024 presidential hopeful of the NDC, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, first visited Nanton, where he interacted with the chiefs and people of the area. He later moved to Tamale, where he met delegates from the 4 constituencies in the Tamale enclave. Addressing the delegate, Dr. Dufo assured them of more development of the north.
We have a responsibility to take care of our children and build a very good future. The election we're going to have next year is not an ordinary election. It's an election for the future. And I want to plead with you that we think through carefully and look for people who can help us rescue the country from where it is now, because we are in big danger. Over 400 financial institutions have been closed down. A lot of contractors have lost their lives. Some of them are also sick. Quite recently, pensioners, you remember? Pensioners have lost their income. These are old people. For the next 10 years or so, they wouldn't have any incomes. What will happen to them? It's a very messy situation in which we find ourselves, and we all have a huge responsibility to rescue this country.
You heard that Dr. Kwabena Duffuor, NDC 2024 flag bearer hopeful. Let's touch base with his camp and speak to spokesperson of the Duffuor campaign, Antonio Asenio. Thank you, Antonio, for joining us. Would you describe the reception so far that you've been in the region for Dr. Duffuor as satisfactory? Many have said that he doesn't have a chance, but you disagree.
Thank you, Kwabena, and good afternoon to your listeners. We are more than satisfied with the response. I mean, I'm sure your reporters were there. The enthusiasm, the love, the warmth was one that was overwhelming. And we hope and pray that on the election day, which is May 13th, they would look on the ballot and vote number 3, Dr. Komla Duffuor, to be the new leader of the party, to rescue this party and this nation.
What's been the key message he's been trumpeting on this tour so far?
The messaging has been simple. We are first looking at the party, since this is a flag bearership contest for the National Democratic Congress. He's promising a number of things. The first, his promise is to revive. If you remember, when Professor Mills was alive and was president, he instituted the Heroes Fund, which was supposed to be a fund for party members who were in line of duty, get hurt or need to be supported. That Heroes Fund, as we speak, has collapsed. His promise that immediately becomes a leader, he will revive it and put some fund in to support the party foot soldiers and to motivate them. And like you played in the audio, he's talking about the cadets and the ages of the party. I mean, the party is 30 years old and above, and there were people that formed this party for us. We refer to them as cadets. Most of them are in their various homes, and we've interacted with them. Their current position is not one that's encouraging, and Dr. Duffuor, having interacted with them, has said that when he's elected to be president, he will set up a pension fund that will be given to these people to make their livelihood better, for them to be happy. And when they're happy, their children and grandchildren will be attracted to the party and join the party as a benefit or as a result. He's also said he's going to introduce a salary structure for the executives of the party. As we speak, they are working for free, voluntary, and sometimes the motivation is not there. In order to keep the motivation, in order to motivate them to sacrifice more for the party, he's going to incentivize them with this salary structure for them to work more for the party to win power 2024 and beyond. He's also said he's going to establish constituency and regional offices for the party. As we speak, he contributed immensely to establishing building the national headquarters, and he's promised that when he becomes the leader of the party, he's going to move further to build, together with the party, regional offices and constituency offices. But most importantly, if you realize, in 2016 and 2020, the party have not been able to have our collation, our results collated properly. As the leader and the one who stands to lead the party and benefit from that result, he's committing to setting up a real-time collation system that the NDC will institute under his leadership, so that we'll be able to collate our results when we go to the polls in 2024 and beyond.
Okay.
Ahotop project, as you are aware, he's currently investing over 9 million Ghana cedis in a project called Ahotop project. The Ahotop project is a micro startup for all constituencies in the country, the 276 constituencies, which comprises of 4 big canopies, 100 chairs, and a modern sound system. The intention of this project is for the constituencies to be able to rent these facilities out for them to generate money for their own activities. We believe strongly when they are economically independent, they'll be able to participate fully in the projects, in our politics locally and nationally.
Senior, without cutting you, on the matter of the Ahonto project and also the institution of a salary structure for party members, some have said, and I don't know if you have a response to this, that Mr. Dufour, Dr. Dufour, is expending a lot of resources on this campaign while in his backyard, some of the companies he runs, some of the staff they are in salary arrears have not been paid.
Komla, can we be specific? I mean, what am I responding to?
There are comments that EIB specifically, some of the staff there are owed salary arrears.
Okay, thank you for bringing this up. It's important to note that Dr. Dufour, aside he being the banker and the educationist and the philanthropist that he is, he's a businessman. Dr. Dufour's first company was set up in 1984, which is the Star Assurance, now Star Group. Dr. Dufour has investment in mining, real estate, and all have you. None of this organization, in fact, the Star Assurance was set up before our constitutional rule, and as we speak, it's one of the most profitable and reliable insurance companies we have. There are concerns about EIB workers. As we go on the store, we are with EIB workers. Dr. Dufour is an investor. He is not a manager of that firm. But then again, we get the times we are in a political season, and whatever concerns that people raise, we've noted it. But truthfully, Dr. Dufour is an investor in the organization I'm referring to, and he's committed to making sure that the livelihood of everybody working in any institution that he is associated with gets a better life. It's something that he's noted, and if there's any concern, he will address it with the management. But as we speak, he's only an investor and not a manager of these organizations.
Thank you very much. A campaign spokesperson for the Dufour camp, Antonio Asinio, there speaking to us. And we will be keeping our eyes on the campaign trail of the leading candidates, and we'll bring you all the fallout from these tours they've been embarking on. Let's head to the Western region, because police in the region is this afternoon expecting to meet family members of a 25-year-old man who died under what the family describes as mysterious circumstances while he was in police custody. The family has been asking the police to explain how their relative was arrested in connection with narcotic-related offenses last month. In an update, the following report gives an account of events.
Family of the slain 25-year-old Emmanuel Bading, alias Abu, are still grieving over the loss of their kingsman. It's been more than a month since Emmanuel's family reported he went missing at Ntankoful in the Western region. According to sources, it coincided with a police's raid on the community, after which some youth were arrested over alleged narcotic offenses. One of the victims arrested that day is Rambo.
The police were tracing your friend of a talent and what's the name and pick a call now. So he'll be cool now here then. All the friend.
The police were looking for one Watara and wanted to know if it was the same person calling my phone. They called him to come over and bail me from the station. They showed him narcotics and said they took them from me, although I told them I found it on the floor. They arrested him and beat him up. He then told them he lives with Abu, and they hurriedly went to Abu's house.
Straight to Abu Nifi.
Wife of the slain Emmanuel Bading, Felicia Aqua, who could not control her tears, narrated what she witnessed during the arrest of her late husband.
He told me they had arrested Watara, and we wondered why. All of a sudden, a pickup arrived with sirens. They were not in uniform, and they asked for one shutter. My husband told them no one with that name lived here. When he made an attempt to leave, they held him and put him in the vehicle.
According to the family, efforts to know the police station he was sent to after his arrest on March 15 proved futile. They were later informed he had died during exchange of gunfire with the police. Letitia, who led the family to inspect the body of the late Abu at the police hospital morgue in Accra on Thursday, April 6, 2023, says the corpse was soaked in blood. The corpse had blood all over, and we couldn't see any scars. We went to the doctor for an explanation, and he said he hasn't examined the body yet.
You heard there a report from our colleague in the Western region, Pakojo Peters, and as we speak, the family is in a meeting with the Western Regional Police Command over the controversies. We know the Queen Mother of the area has been bearing her teeth at the police officers on duty on the said day, and we know it is not the first time an incident such as this has been recorded. We remember in Elembele there was a similar incident. Then in Kranza, a suspect died in custody as well, and it's generated spontaneous protest, and many young people onto the streets to demand justice for the slain individuals. Let's get onto the phone and speak to security analyst Emmanuel Coating. Thank you. Always a pleasure to have you join us on the bulletin. There obviously must be something being done that must change with respect to how police handle suspects, for which reason some of them die in custody without explanation.
Thank you, Adom, and good afternoon for having me. Happy Easter to you and your colleagues and to your cherished viewers. But Adom, the level at which the image of the Ghana Police Service is thinking is so alarming. One would have thought that given the current IGP we have, who have gone through from constable to the enviable position he holds now, at least policies should have been put in place to correct this old age or the stone age of police making up stories and getting innocent people in prison and all those kind of things. So, Adom, even the narration of the wife of the late Emmanuel, A.K. Abu or whatever, how can this continue to happen? In the past 2 weeks, the Ghana Police Service has been in the news for the wrong reason. And all the time, you see the Ghana Police Service bringing out statements defending their own. So when would the Ghana Police Service also admit that they are wrong? So once they continue to do this, it creates impunity and personnel continue to do worse things. I think that I will use your medium to call on civil voices, human rights defenders, faith groups, the Christian Council, to call on the authorities, especially government, to put an independent commission not headed by the police in place. I think the system we have, where the police investigates their own and pass them, it is not helping in enhancing our democracy. Look at the situation that happened over a few days ago. The Galamsey site where this Galamsey kingpin was able to disarm a whole officer holding an AK-47. What did the police do? They simply arrested this innocent boy as a criminal and let the officer go. Instead of using this person as a witness to eliminate the cartel, they have rather sacrificed the person who was rather exercising his right. When I say right, if you have been suppressed over time and you want to hit back, these are the things that happen. So I'm calling on the IGP. This is a very bad case, and policies must be put in place to correct these measures. Otherwise, the Ghana Police Service as it is now, citizens will continue not to trust it, and we all know the consequences when citizens have no faith in their own police as an institution. I've gone through similar thing, if you recall, when I was brutalized by the police in front of the former MP for Banda, Honorable Teria. You asked him. They told him they were taking me to the Sakumono police station. They took me to the 18th police station. So the stories of the wife and the friends of this late gentleman can never be far from the truth.
All right.
And I will urge that the police do its best this time to unravel the mystery behind this unfortunate death.
Grateful you could join us, Emmanuel Kuting, the security analyst, speaking to us on this. Let's head onto the phone line and speak to correspondent Pakujo Peters, who has been on this particular subject for some time. Thank you, Pakujo Peters. We understand that meeting between the family and the police command has ended. What's been the major takeaways?
Yeah, Komla, the police have agreed that they will conduct autopsy on the body of our late brother in the presence of the family. That's what came out from their meeting this morning. The meeting was attended by the Queen Mother of the community together with assembly members and some members of the family. They were demanding that they will get possession of the body so that they can bury it as per Muslim culture. But the police are saying they should exercise some patience so that they can conduct the autopsy. Then they all know what actually happened that has led to the demise of our brother Abu. So that is the conclusion. Now, the meeting ended a few minutes ago, and they've all agreed that hopefully within this week, they will all travel to the Accra hospital to conduct the autopsy.
Thank you very much, correspondent Pakujo Peters there from the Western region speaking to us. And let's still stay related to the police and other matters. 6 suspects involved in the assault of a police officer, which occurred sometime last week at Kumewu, have been arraigned before court. Sergeant Sylvester Bahene was seen in a viral video being pounced on by 6 individuals on the main Ifiduase Kumewu Road in the Ashanti region. 6 out of the 7 suspects are currently in police custody, and they will have their first day in court. William Evans Inkum will be in court, will bring us all the development. Away from that, the UK government has included Ghana, Nigeria, Angola, and Cameroon in a list of 54 countries that should not be actively targeted for recruitment by health and social care employers. This announcement was made by the UK government in its revised Code of Practice for International Recruitment of Health and Social Care Personnel in England, which was published on the NHS employers website. The code states that some developing countries such as Ghana should not be targeted when actively recruiting health care professionals. Joining me in studio is Dennis Wedam, my colleague. He has been studying details of this. He's joining us. Dennis, do we know what may have informed this decision by the UK government to quote-unquote red list these countries, including Ghana?
Well, so this stems from a WHO advisory to the effect that when it comes to recruiting health professionals around the globe, there has to be some kind of fairness, just so that countries that are in dire need of these health professionals themselves are not disadvantaged. So this is just a reflection of that advisory given by the WHO, and it listed up to 54 countries, 37 of them from Africa and 15 of them from West Africa. So what it means is that it's only one country in West Africa that is not in that particular list, and that is Cape Verde. All the other countries in West Africa are on that particular list. 37 out of the 54 countries in Africa are also on that list. What it means is that for all those countries, they need the health professionals even more than these other countries where they go to.
And some have said, for example, in the last few months, we had a conversation about brain drain. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, I remember, has had cause to raise concern about the number of nurses who have had to leave the shores of Ghana, even the Ghana Medical Association. How does that tie into this latest red alert? Does that mean the professionals who many are not getting active employment in Ghana cannot go out of Ghana?
Well, they can. So even when you read the release from the UK government, what they are essentially saying is that they cannot engage in active recruitment. What it means is that an individual can also apply to an employer directly and get a job there. But what they cannot do is to use agencies and intermediaries or middlemen to get them in droves, as we see in other developments. But as individuals, they can still make a step directly to the employers, and they can get through to that.
Thank you very much, Dennis Wedam. Subsequently, we'll be getting some reaction from the Ghana Medical Association and the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association on the latest red alert from the UK government on active employment of healthcare professionals from Ghana. That'll be our package for this afternoon. If you log on to 3news.com, you find a lot more stories there. The business update with Nanekia Mensah Abrampa is up next.
Accra gets busy on this frequency, 92.7 3FM. Accra gets busy on this frequency, 92.7 3FM.
very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us on Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. My name is Nanaye Mensah Brampa. Coming up this afternoon, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta leads government's delegation to Washington, D.C. in efforts to secure financial assurances from the country's bilateral creditors at the IMF World Bank spring meetings enhance Ghana's chances of an IMF board approval. Plus, government recorded a marginal oversubscription of 6% on treasury bills, raking in over 1.8 billion cedis. We have all the details in the next 10 minutes. Please stay. Thank you for your time. Now, government recorded a marginal oversubscription of 6% on treasury bills, raking in over 1.8 billion cedis. That's according to the latest auction results by the Bank of Ghana. It, however, accepted 1.85 billion cedis more than the targeted amount of 1.76 billion cedis. A chunk of the bids came from the 91-day T-bills. The government accepted all the bids from the 91-day and 182-day T-bills. However, it accepted 140 million cedis out of the 167 million cedis tendered for the 1-year bill. The auction results show that the yield on the 91-day T-bills went up by 0.31% to 19.69%, whilst that of the 182-day T-bills increased to 22.24% from 21.85% the previous week. The rate on the 364-day T-bills also surged to 26.95%. Now, Professor of Economics at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Godfrey Bokpin, says the domestic debt exchange program will lead to about 41 billion cedis in impairment losses for banks. Speaking in an interview with 3 Business, Dr. Bokpin said the situation could most likely affect the solvency of some banks, but is hopeful the Ghana Stability Fund and other regulatory measures recently announced could lessen the impact.
If you look at this together with what exchange rates depreciation has done to bank capital since 2018, you realize that the capital base of banks is much smaller now. So what that means is that if a bank doesn't take immediate steps to aggressively grow its capital through capital planning, then you will be forced to recapitalize at some point in time. When things settle and we begin to look at our economic strategy and how robust the banking sector must be to be able to support the overall economic strategy, you will see that banks wouldn't have been adequately capitalized to be able to play that role. And the regulator will come in and ask them to recap. We've done that before. If they had applied the International Financial Reporting Standard 9, FRS 9, in discounting, in accounting for the impairment losses, few banks would have been able to survive. The impact is a little smaller now than what it would have been, because if the banks had signed on to the original domestic debt testing that was announced with no coupon payment 2023, the impairment losses on the books of the bank would have been more than 80%.
That was Dr. Godfrey Bokpin. He is with the investor. Hopes to secure the $3 billion due from the IMF, and a lot of these conversations we're hoping to get some answers from is at the ongoing IMF World Bank spring meetings, which is underway in Washington, D.C., USA. The discussions at the meetings are expected to be dominated by the high global inflation, high cost of living, debt sustainability, as well as the Russia-Ukraine war. The annual meetings attract global leaders, finance ministers, central bank governors, as well as corporate executives and academia, among others, to discuss issues undermining global economic growth. For us here in Ghana, our finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is leading the government delegation and will be seeking to secure financing assurances once again from the Ghana's bilateral creditors. Meanwhile, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, says global growth will remain below 3% 6% for the next 5 years due to fears of rising inflation. Speaking during the opening of the spring meetings of the World Bank IMF in Washington, she said central banks all over the world will have a difficult task of keeping interest rates high, a situation which will likely affect liquidity to the private sector and eventually impact on growth.
The recovery we so much are hoping for, a robust recovery, is still a bit elusive. Why? Because we do have a significant inflation problem. That means central banks have to continue to keep interest rates higher to combat it, and that is on the way of restoring the prospects for robust growth. We have seen that this rapid transition from low interest rates, abundant liquidity, to high interest rates and much less available liquidity has exposed vulnerabilities in the financial sector. That made the task of policymakers even harder. So in that context, what we are projecting for this year is, despite the remarkable resilience of consumer spending in the United States, in Europe, despite the uplift from China's reopening, global growth would remain below 3% as we projected it earlier this year. And what is more concerning, it would remain around 3% for the next 5 years.
And that was the managing director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, there. And trust us to be giving you more updates on happenings at the spring meetings. My colleague Sani Abdulrahman is there. He said the ball rolling this morning, and subsequently we'll be getting to him to get more on happenings in there. Today, I know one of the conversations they'll be having is overcoming debt and generating growth. That will be one of the conversations they'll be having with the president of the World Bank Group, David Malpass. We'll be getting you more in our subsequent bulletins on the spring meetings in Washington, D.C. Away from that, and finally, a policy analyst, Dr. Steve Mantiao, says Ghana's energy transition target of 2070 is not ambitious enough and fears the country may be left behind. He's of the view Ghana risks losing the opportunities associated with the transition, such as renewable energy technologies.
There is a new race in town, the race to have the upper hand in trying to develop renewable energy technology. And you find that many countries have set very ambitious targets. Some countries are looking at 2030. In fact, even for Tallow Oil, which is a company operating in Ghana, their net zero target is 2030. So if you have the host country setting its target at 2070, I mean, the risk is that if you're not careful, we will lose a lot of the opportunities along the way.
And that was Dr. Steve Mantiao, a policy analyst, ending it for Business Daily this afternoon on 3FM 92.7. Remember, you can log on to 3news.com. We have more business news updates. That's it. My name is Nana Ekwia Mensah Abrampa, making way for Black Rasta. Enjoy your lunch and have a good afternoon.